Today on With the First Pick, it's the first week of June, Rick. So what better time for a little summertime redraft fun? That's right. We're going to redraft the 2021 draft class. But before we get to that, we're going to talk NFL quarterbacks poised to make the leap from good to great in 2024. And we'll also hit on Justin Jefferson's new deal and what it means for CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and some few other guys. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. This is episode 162. And before we get going, Rick, how many days till the 2025 NFL draft? Look what I did for you.
Wow. Now that's much better. Now I can understand that.
So, I got you our old board, but I put it on the television. How about that?
the technology behind that brain of yours is just incredible how you come up with those. But for you and Harry, our producer, did you know that there are 323 days left until the 2025 NFL draft? But Ryan, if you were really prepared, how many days since the 2021 draft that we're going all the way back to?
Oh, that's 365 minus 323. Everyone knows that. 22? 3 weeks? No, it's been more than 3 weeks.
That's 21. We're in 24, right?
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me.
I have no idea. I just thought that what just came to my head, just like most things just come to my head as I sit here and listen to you babble on this podcast.
Until you hear your name called, then you perked up. It's like being in class.
Oh, yeah. Is it me? Harry, any solos yet? Any solo shots yet or no?
All right, here we go. Oh, there you go. There's a solo shot that Rick was dying for. Producer Harry is with us again, and Rick has put in his contract that there are more solo shots. If you're listening on the audio version, thank your lucky stars. If you're watching us on YouTube, you just saw an up-close shot of Rick, and you'll get a lot of those in the show. Remember, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and ask a mailbag question because, Rick, we got a mailbag episode coming up in a few weeks. You can also email the pod at WTFPdraft@gmail.com. All right, Rick, let's get to it. Let's start with a young man named Justin Jefferson. You may know something about. There's that clip floating around during the COVID draft where you were celebrating wildly. You don't like to talk about it, but you got Justin Jefferson. You were excited about it. That was
very excited about it, but yeah. I don't think to talk about the clip.
You don't. All right. Well, Harry doesn't have it, but if you want to look for Rick celebrating at his home because they were
celebrate, just happy that he felt us. That's all.
In your wildest dreams back in 2020, when you made that draft pick, would you imagine that in 4 years later, the wide receiver market would be as such that the top wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, will be making $35 million a year annually?
No. At that time, that wasn't where contracts are going. But you know what? As soon as he got this deal, which is well-deserved, I mean, it's like $100 million guaranteed or $110 million guaranteed out of the $140. So, but this is going to get passed up because you're going to have CeeDee Lamb coming in. You're going to have Jamar Chase coming in.
Tyreek. What about Tyreek?
The Tyreek is in a second deal. These are first-time guys, so they're going to get.
Tyreek doesn't care about that, though.
Tyreek, did you talk to Tyreek?
I heard Drew Rosenhaus talking to everyone that would listen about Tyreek.
Tyreek will try to get up there after he was the one that originally set the market at $30 million.
At 30, that's right.
And then I was just reading a clip today, just going through some of the news that Micah Parsons says there's no reason why he shouldn't be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league.
Here, let's start there. Let's start with Dallas because I want to ask you about Dallas because with Justin Jefferson and JJ McCarthy, it makes sense. When you look at the percentage of salary cap devoted to wide receivers, when you have a rookie quarterback, you can pay the wide receiver. And we talked about this the other week. Let me find the page I had here.
Well, that point, but they're also in Philly paying Hurst. But they also gave A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both significant contracts. So there's ways to make it work.
There is ways to make it work. And you look at the top team. So Seattle actually pays their wide receivers the most. This is irrespective of what happened with Minnesota. Those numbers haven't been updated yet. But I think Jordan Addison's number 2. So it's not a lot of money for the number 2 in Minnesota. But DK and Tyler Lockett make a lot of money. Jackson Smith and Chip goes on that rookie deal. Then Miami, because Tyreek and Jalen just got repaid. Then there's Dallas, and this was before CeeDee wants to get paid. They're already third in terms of salary cap devoted to wide receivers and nearly 18%. And I bring that up because you talked about Micah Parsons. He can make $35 million a year. That's a few million north of what I think Bosa is the highest paid edge rusher at this point.
Yeah, he's going to make north of that.
Fair enough. And if you say that you think CD has a chance to get 35 plus at wide receiver, and then you have to pay Dak 55 to 60, you're paying three guys as of right now, literally half the salary cap. That salary cap will go up, but you can't win like that, can you?
No, well, you better draft well because you're going to have to
and undrafted free agent well.
yeah, you're going to have to find some low-level free agents, and you're going to have to draft well just so you can fit it all under the salary cap. Because when they're under rookie deals, that gives the teams a lot more flexibility. We're seeing that out in San Francisco right now with Brock Purdy and how they're able to pay everybody that they're paying, but eventually they're going to have to pay Purdy, and then you're going to have to make some tough decisions on who you're going to keep and who you're going to play.
So give me the Rick percentages that in 2020, the 2025 season, Micah, CD, and Dak are all in Dallas.
Whew. Now, depending on the cap, Jim, it's not going to be a cash issue with Jerry Jones. So that's
he'll just sell the bus if he needs more money.
Yeah, but it may be how can they fit all that underneath the cap? And if they do keep those three, then someone's got to go.
Right.
And they're going to have to start, whether it's Trayvon Diggs or who are they going to sacrifice. So, yeah. But there's going to be some sacrifices that are going to have to be made in Dallas, unless they just structure these contracts so ridiculous that, and depending on how high the cap goes up over the next 3 or 4 years, but it's going to be very difficult to do. I'm going to say this: if Dallas does not win in the playoffs this year, everybody's assuming they're going to win their 12 games like they've done the past 3 years, get into the playoffs. But if they don't win in the playoffs, does the whole thing just implode? Now, they're going to try to keep CD. Probably Micah would be the first in CD Lamb. And then, but do they keep Dak if Dak doesn't win a playoff game?
Well, we're going to talk about Dak a little bit later, whether he's been a guy who's on the rise or is struggling, but you can't win without a quarterback unless Micah can play quarterback, and maybe he can, but that's a question. The other thing I'll ask quickly before we move on, and you agree Justin Jefferson's worth every penny of the $35 million. That's how important he is, right?
Yeah, but the reason why is not only because what he does on the field, but because how humble he is off the field, how hard he works. He is a superstar without that entitlement that comes with that sometimes. I remember when he first came and walked on campus when we had a rookie mini camp, and he was a different than everybody else, you can tell. So, and we got fortunate that he was there when we picked him, but he was so driven to be the best receiver in this league. He's so driven to wear that gold jacket someday down the road. So driven to win a Super Bowl. And he knows with him on the roster gives the Vikings the best chance to win a Super Bowl. But when you can get a superstar player with the humbleness that he has and the drive that he has to be the best, you're usually going to hit a home run.
It's funny you say that because we talked to him. That was obviously the COVID draft. Things were about to shut down at the Combine that year, but we talked to JJ at the Combine. And I remember saying to him, because Jamar Chase was the primary show in town. JJ was 1A at that point because JJ played a lot of slot that last year that they won the national title. And I remember when he came on set, he had already run. So he had run sub 4.5, which I was concerned about because I loved his game. And I think he measured 6'1", and something around there. And I remember saying to him, man, I'm glad you ran the time you did because I think people will understand just how good you are. Because one of the big questions was, can he play something other than the slot? Would you agree, Rick, that JJ can play something other than the slot?
Well, I think the jury's still out.
but he was incredibly humble, to your point.
Yeah, and I think, but if you go back the year before, he did play outside because we went back and watched all the outside tape.
That's what he told me to do. He said, go watch my 2019 tape and or 2018 tape and let me know if I can play outside.
Did you do it?
I didn't need to. He proved me wrong. He was much nicer to me.
I didn't get to go on stage with you and interview him.
I asked you, and you told the security guys to usher me away. We didn't know each other quite as well as we did then. Yeah, Sugarman beat me up. All right, 30 seconds on Jamar Chase. Who gets paid first, Jamar or CD? And is Jamar also getting 35 plus?
Yeah, Jamar's getting 35 plus, and so is CD. Or else they're not going to show up. The biggest issue is Jerry Jones. Like I said, there's a cap issue and then there's a cash issue. And the Browns, the owners of the Cincinnati Bengals, that's their they don't own another business. You know, Jerry Jones made his money in oil and whatever else he did, and I do believe they have enough cash, but that's a lot of cash going out. Plus, don't forget, they have T. Higgins on that big number as a franchise receiver as well.
T. Higgins will not be back in 2025, I would imagine.
No, there's no way he'll be back. It'll be interesting to see if he does show, which I think he will, but probably not till the beginning of training camp or beginning of the season if they don't get a long-term extension done.
You mentioned that, and we'll take a break and get on to other things. But right now is the time of year where guys don't show up for mandatory quote-unquote minicamp, and there's the fines that are accruing. It can be up to $10,000s, even $100,000s of dollars. Have you ever fined any player for not showing up for mandatory minicamp? Because I feel like we hear the this is what's going to happen to you, but there's no follow-through.
Yeah, since the new CBA with the fines being so significant with the mandatory minicamp, most of them will show up, go to meetings, but they may have that hold in, so they don't give up that type of fine money.
But have you fined guys like big name guys who haven't showed up, or do you always
Most
give it
of the
back?
guys, I can't remember ever finding someone who didn't show up. Most of them showed up.
Oh, okay. I see. All right. A great non-answer there from Mr. Spielman. Okay.
What do you want me to do? Fine them if they show up?
That's what you do to me. Every time you come down to breakfast for the pro days, you find me $10 for just hanging out with you. That goes towards the coffee fund. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some QB leaps. Some guys we liked, some guys we didn't like quite as much. We'll talk about that right after this.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
CFL on CBS. Rick Spielman one time had to go to Canada and scout these guys. Blesto days or Detroit Lion days?
Chicago Bear days. When I was the pro director with the Chicago Bears, I would make a trip every summer up through the Canadian League.
Oh, that's right. That's where the lady at the gas station got mad at you.
Yeah, because I didn't speak French. So up in Montreal.
Did you tell her you didn't speak English too? Was it your fault?
I didn't speak English too. It just Spielmanese, and she didn't certainly understand Spielmanese.
Knowing you probably tried to speak English in a French accent and just made her angry.
Well, they didn't have the cell phone GPS thing back. It didn't work on my BlackBerry at the time. So
you're asking for directions?
I was asking for directions.
To be a fly on the wall of that store. That poor woman. She probably still tells that story.
Yeah. Je m'appelle Richard Spielman.
Richard, I love it.
Where is Montreal's training camp?
Oh my gosh. Well, you got my name is. I don't know if you got training camp written down on your sheet of paper for the translator.
Yeah, that's like when I took that, I decided you had to take a foreign language in college. So I tell you that story. I took French.
The professor was very disappointed in you, if I recall.
Yes, he was. I went in there, and it was an advanced French class where you can try to do 2 semesters into one. I said, let me lock this out. And after the second class, he pulled me up aside. I thought I was getting like a gold star or something. He says, I would probably do sign language or something because you're not going to pass this class.
I can't. What were you thinking going to an advanced class?
I was trying to get through. I was very good in math and science. I was in French. I thought that I was better than I was.
Did you take French in high school at least?
No.
Okay. All right. You need to get a guidance counselor.
Every time you ask me a question in French, I said, "Oui."
Oh, man, you were easy to spot. You're like the guy at the tryouts who hasn't played football in 15 years, and you think you're going to fool someone into being the all-star quarterback.
Oui.
The professor knew you right away. By the way, Rick, in case you forgot, since it's the middle of summer here, we're only doing 1 episode a week on the old podcast. We're going to pack a lot into this episode, so hopefully you'll get your money's worth. It is free after all. But don't worry, because summer scouting's probably about 3 weeks away, so we'll be on that summer scouting train before you know it. All right. A year ago this time, we talked about quarterback leaps, and we'll talk about our list from a year ago. It is not a pretty list. But let's talk about some of the guys who took a leap in 2023. not necessarily young players, just guys who improved from 2022 to 2023, helped their football team along the way, and we'll see what that looks like going into next season. But want to give them their due. At the top of the list here, Dak Prescott. So he was 11th in EPA per dropback. It's a little nerd metric, but it stands for expected points added. So sort of a proxy for how efficient you are compared to other quarterbacks in this case. Dak was 11th in 2022, and he had the struggles, and we talked a lot about that 2 seasons ago. Last year, he was pretty good, but as you noted, not only Dak, but the Cowboys struggle once January rolls around to the point that it's hard to explain. 2 years ago, they lost to the 49ers, that weird 4th down play. Last year, who did they lose to last year? I don't remember Green Bay beat the crap out of them, right?
In Dallas.
Jeez, both those games are in Dallas. So that's not on Dak, but I think Dak did a lot of things really well, and you were asking whether he's going to be around. I don't feel like he's the problem in Dallas. I don't know. Maybe you feel differently?
If whether it's fair or not, you have to. The quarterback gets blamed for the wins and losses, but he's not trying to defend the run against Green Bay, and Green Bay ran up and down the field. So unless they move him to middle linebacker next to Micah Parsons, yeah, he probably gets more blame than he deserves.
Right. I agree with that. And I don't know what the solution is in terms of we'll never know. I mean, maybe he has to go somewhere else and win a Super Bowl, and then we'll feel better about it. But he had a really good bounce back year, if you want to call it that. It wasn't like he was bad. He was 11th according to this metric here. Next up, Matthew Stafford, who just keeps getting better. I think the big reason for the jump last year, 2 words, Puka Nacua.
3 words, Puka Spielman Nacua.
Puka Spielman Nacua. But Matthew Stafford, you have said countless times, I believe, if I heard you correctly, you've never heard the ball being thrown harder at a pro day than Matthew Stafford's?
No, I was at the Georgia Pro Day. It was outside in bad conditions, and the ball was like whistling through.
That was 2009. Where were you in 2009?
I was in Minnesota in 2009.
I don't remember who you took in 2009, but Matthew Stafford was the first overall pick for a good reason. And he's been every bit as advertised. Was he considered a mobile quarterback back then? Because he's athletic, but he primarily stays in the pocket.
Yeah, but he had enough athletic ability to move around the pocket. But yeah, probably besides Jamarcus Russell, just in a throwing session, it was one of the most impressive throwing sessions I've seen.
Yeah.
Except he could take it to the field.
He took it to the field for sure.
Wasn't able to do that at the NFL level.
CJ Stroud said, I don't know if it was on a podcast, but I saw a clip on Twitter the other day, our buddy CJ Stroud, that if Matthew Stafford had been, say, in Green Bay, he would have as many or more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. Do you agree with that?
Well, he put up a lot of big numbers in Detroit, but just they never had success. I think maybe 1 or 2 times they went to the playoffs. We hated playing against Matthew Stafford. We had to play against him twice a year. So in the right situation, he got out in LA, and in the right situation, he is able to win a Super Bowl. So you can theoretically say that, but again, that's a hypothetical that I absolutely hate.
You love hypotheticals.
I hate hypotheticals, but theoretically, let's not call it a hypothetical. Theoretically, he probably could have.
By the way, that's one of the rare trades. None immediately come to mind. I'm sure there are several others. Both Stafford and Goff are better players in their new landing spots. Stafford maybe has the benefit of better players around him, but Goff certainly has gotten better since leaving what we thought was his ideal landing spot.
Yeah, and he beat Stafford last year in Detroit in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, like, both those guys are insane athletes, have great arms. Goff is probably a better athlete I'm getting credit for, but a lot of playing quarterbacks just confidence. Next up on the list, Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate or MVP winner. He was a candidate for the longest time. Went from 23rd and expected points added in 2022 to 8th last year. His numbers, off the top of my head, weren't quite as jaw-dropping as they usually are, but he was certainly much more efficient. Then Baker, and then I put Purdy on the list, but Purdy didn't even he went from 6 to 1 in terms of his efficiency. You can say that has to do with Kyle Shanahan and the playmakers around him and the offensive line. I get all that. I don't disagree with it, but he still has to throw the football and make the decisions. So these are the players I came up with, Rick, that I thought did the most. Purdy's side, I just want to give Purdy his due here. did the most in terms of improving from one year to the next. What do you think about this?
What's the common theme here? Prescott, new play caller, and Mike McCarthy. Stafford, okay.
Puka Nacua, Spielman.
Yeah, well, Sean McVay is a pretty good play caller, one of the tops in the league.
Todd Monken was in year one, correct?
Huh?
Todd Monken was in year one in Baltimore, I believe, right?
Yep. New play caller. Dave Canales, Baker Mayfield, new play caller.
Yep.
Purdy, who has maybe the best offensive play caller in the league right now, Kyle Shanahan. So to me, the theme here is they're all offensive-minded coaches that know what these quarterbacks do well and are able to adjust their scheme around what the quarterback does well.
Also, all veterans except for Brock Purdy for the most part. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of the conversation going forward, but you can teach an old dog new tricks. Dak's always been good. Stafford's always been good. Goff has made the leap. We're not talking about him, but Baker certainly made the leap. Once he landed in Tampa Bay, he was in Carolina and then LA, the Rams before that, just sort of jumping around after Cleveland let him go. But, and they're all first round pick. Dak went in the fourth round because of off-field issues. I think he probably had top 50 talent. And then Brock Purdy, had he come out a year before, maybe he goes top 100, but obviously he was Mr. Irrelevant when he stayed for an extra year at Iowa State. All right. That's a look at who made some moves and shakes in 2023. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back here, we're going to talk about some guys, some fine young men who are poised to take the leap in 2024. Rick, we'll talk about that right after this.
Gear up for a bi-coastal clash with world-class talent. It's the NWSL on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+. Keep your eyes on me.
NWSL on CBS, Rick. A quick 30-second aside here. What do you think about this Caitlin Clark getting fouled stuff?
Oh, my God. She got kind of hammered a little bit. But
I guess she's having a rough go of it. The whole Indiana Fever team is. I haven't followed it closely, but I saw our buddy Chris Hassel.
Yeah, but she's been playing a lot better. They had a big win, a one-point win the other night, I think, against Angela Reese, or is it Angel Reese's team?
Angel Reese, the one who said that, also said that the reason that people are watching the WNBA is because of her as well.
Yeah, and then she got booted out of the game, I think, the other night.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's I think it's fun to watch. I love the WNBA.
People are talking about it.
Yeah, and these girls are physical as heck. When they anoint Caitlin Clark is the greatest of ever, I'm sure that these veterans all of a sudden have a point to prove that it ain't as easy coming into the WNBA as it was in college. So, but it's been fun to watch. And Caitlin Clark, even though she's probably struggled a little bit, but her just presence on that court, and I think she's getting better and learning the game. The biggest thing for her is the turnovers. And I've watched a couple games of hers, and the windows, just like we say in the NFL, are much tighter. And you have to figure out, because she's got phenomenal vision on where she distributes the ball, but the windows are tighter and the girls have better length. So what she can get away with in college, she can't get away with in the WNBA. So it'll be interesting to see as she continues to progress. But I still think she's going to be one of the best WNBA players to ever play by the time she's done. Does that give me a shot to be a WNBA draft analyst?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to turn this clip in to your sizzle reel for the draft analyst spot for WNBA. I think you made this point last week when we talked about Caitlin Clark. We're talking a lot about WNBA, but it's like the bad boys. It feels like they're treating her like Bill Laimbeer, and who was the other guy that played with Bill Laimbeer? They used to be.
It was like the whole crew of Dennis Rodman and
Rick Mahorn. That's what I was thinking about.
Mahorn.
Mahorn was maybe, I don't know. Laimbeer was pretty bad. Mahorn was probably 1B, but they're giving her the bad boy treatment from the early 90s. She's not, as far as I can tell, she doesn't say anything. She just plays.
No, she got a technical foul because they've been hammering her. And and there's been some rumors that the officials are letting her get hammered. So the GM from the Fever is explaining to the league and see if that changes at all. But she's the one thing I'll say, she is as tough as nails, because as hard as they're coming on her and as hard as she's getting hammered on some of these fouls, she just gets right back up and keeps going.
Love it. All right. Let's talk about some quarterbacks that are going to keep going here in 2024. These are all young guys. And I'll let you have first pick of who you want to prop up here. I have an idea knowing you. But here are the second-year options. Guys, second-year players who have an opportunity to take that leap. C.J. Stroud's on the list, but let's be real. he feels like he's arrived. The only pressure on C.J. is how good can he get, right? How much more can he improve? He's already said that Bobby Sloak's offense, it's like night and day between this year and last year. We often hear that from second-year players. Now they've been in the system. Added bonus, they have Stephon Diggs. Added bonus, they have Joe Mixon. This team is poised to make a legit run through the AFC, and we'll see how that plays out. The other candidates, Will Levis, Aiden O'Connell in Las Vegas. He's battling Gardner Minshew. That's a sentence I never thought I'd be saying. Bryce Young, second year for the Carolina Panthers, our guy from a year ago. And Anthony Richardson, who was hurt for most of last year because of his shoulder injury. He's now throwing. A viral video going around of him getting a back tattoo. His whole entire back got tattooed. I don't know a lot about tattoos, but he was put to sleep to do the tattoo. I think that's pretty hardcore. All right, who's your guy, Rick? Second year.
Hardcore would have been not getting put to sleep.
I guess so. And it's not like he's a little guy, too. 240 pounds. He's like, I don't want to deal with that pain. Maybe as our buddy Pete Prisco might say, that's a sign that he's not tough enough. That's probably not true. Who's your second year option to make the leap, Rick, in 2024?
Okay, again, even though it's more clear than when Debo was giving instructions, there was still a little gray area in this because in the rundown, Anthony Richardson says did not qualify because of injury. So I took that literally. So I couldn't use him. So
I just said that because I meant in terms of his.
Well, it's not clear. So just you got to remember, I take things very literally.
That's not me. That's not on Harry. Just so we're clear. I wrote that there. That was a personal note that I forgot to delete for your purpose. You can still change your mind if you want to add it.
No, I'm not going to add it. No, I'm going right what it says on there, like I always do.
All right.
So but to me, I'm going to live by the sword and die by the sword.
And you've been getting murdered. So hopefully you can bounce back this time.
At two, Brute?
I like it.
That's my French, and that's so. Or is that
that's Latin?
I didn't take Latin either, as you can tell. Bryce Young can't get any worse than he did. You have to go with Bryce.
You have to go with Bryce. I don't hate that.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is they try to improve the offensive line. They got some more weapons around him with getting Leggett in there, Deontay Johnson, who they traded in that trade for Pittsburgh. Your guy, Javonte Sanders, maybe he helps at the tight end position. Improvement on the offensive line, signing Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, who I think will secure that interior of that offensive line. And the reason that that's so important with a shorter quarterback, you want guys that can hold the point when they're pass blocking and not getting collapsed back in the pocket, which will give him more lanes to throw through. The biggest question it's all going to come down to is Ekwonu, and if he can improve at left tackle, because if he struggles the way he did, then that's going to be an issue. But I also know what Dave Canales did with Bryce or with Baker Mayfield, who everybody threw him out, with the trash before he ended up down in Tampa as a big bust. And he doesn't have, Mike Evans thrown to or Godwin or those guys, but he has a better core to throw to, better skill position guys around him. They took the running back from Brooks from Texas.
Yeah.
When he comes back, I think he's going to be a significant upgrade as well. So I'm putting a lot of faith in Dave Canales and what he's done with quarterbacks, even what he did with Geno Smith and Russell Wilson when he was out in Seattle, that he'll get Bryce Young turned around.
I think so, too. Dave Canales has talked in recent weeks during rookie mini camps, OTAs, where we are in this pre-draft schedule, about how accuracy is not an issue with Bryce. It's just getting his footwork right and getting the ball out on time, which are things we saw him struggle with last year, in part because he looked a little gun-shy by the end, understandably so. He's getting his brains beat in, and I'm sure he was just chucking and ducking by the time, we got to October, it felt like.
What? Sorry.
What does that mean?
You don't like the solo on you.
You don't like the solo on me?
No.
All right.
Thanks, Harry. Take that off.
So Bryce Young, I get it. I think he's going to make huge strides. He's gonna make big strides. I don't know if they're huge. We'll see. I think he's gonna be a lot better.
Huge strides. I'm living by the sword and dying by the
Yeah.
sword.
I wonder if we're gonna have to squeeze in some year 2 rookie evaluations this fall just to keep up with Bryson. We know how CJ will do, but also the other guy I'm gonna mention here. I can't believe I'm doing this. Will Levis.
Oh God. You and Pete to get side staff meeting.
I had to beat Pete off the Will Levis train so I could drive it. Look, I blame Pete for making me be anti Will Levis. I was fine with him coming out. I just thought, there's some things I didn't like on his last year in Kentucky, and we've talked it to death, so we don't need to talk it anymore. But they got J.C. Latham. J.C.'s going to play left tackle. I'm guessing Bill Callahan can work that out, so I'm not worried about that. Brian Callahan's a new coach. I think he's going to bring something new to this offense that we saw in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had a ton of success, in part because of the playmakers there. This offensive line probably is on par with what the Bengals had to deal with in terms of Joe Burrow struggling with that, but maybe it's a little better with JC's addition. But the reason I like it, Rick, year 2 for Will Levis, you having a young offensive play caller in Brian Callahan, but you have weapons finally for him to throw to. You have DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks. And by the way, Brian Callahan said the other day that Treylon Burks is going to have to make this team on special teams. That's not a sign you want to hear for your third-year wide receiver first-round pick, but I think it's the reality. And I get that. But they also have Calvin Ridley, who they signed. They have Tyler Boyd. They drafted Jaquan Jackson, who you and I like coming out during the draft process. They have Kyle Phillips, who's also a slot guy from last year, the year before, 2 years ago, I think. Chigakonkwo's an athletic tight end. And I think all that together with Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, there's an opportunity for Will Levis to have to do less and to do, when he's asked to do stuff down the field, he can do it a little bit more efficiently. The ball has to come in on time. Those things he struggled with, we know. But I think there's an opportunity for him to make a leap.
Yeah, I agree, because there's no question about the arm talent, and there's no question about the toughness. And we've seen him. I remember that one play when we were doing our rookie reviews during the season where he ran for a first down and got helicoptered and got right back up. But he's
You love that.
Yeah, he's going to have to learn how to protect himself, and it'll be interesting if he can learn how to layer the ball with some velocity. Because he's a fastball thrower on everything. But, that first game he started, threw 3 touchdowns and strikes down the field to D-Hop. So it'll be interesting that teams now can scout him a little bit, and it'll be interesting if Callahan's coming in with a new offensive scheme, how that helps Will Levis. But I can see him making a leap as well, because it's not physical talent.
Right. All right, producer Harry, write this down. Dollar bet, Rick, who throws for more touchdowns next year, assuming they play the same number of games, thereabouts, but 15 or more games. Let's say that. Who throws more touchdowns, Bryce or Levis?
I'm living by the sword, dying by the sword. Bryce Young.
All right, give me Levis. I don't want to do that, but Levis it is. Get the dollar bet machine going here. All right, those are the second-year guys. You're going with Bryce. I'm going with Will. Let's talk about some guys who've been in the league a little longer, ready to make the next step or even a bounce back. This is definitely next step conversation because he only played last year. Jordan Love, who has quickly become one of the best quarterbacks. He's top 10 quarterback, Rick?
He's only got a half a year where he played like a top 10, so jury's still out, in my opinion. But if he plays like he did the second half of the season, then I can see him as a top 10.
All right, some other names on the list. Trevor Lawrence, he sort of regressed a little bit last year. There's some certainly reasons for it you can talk about. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow had the injury. And Kyler Murray, who was a little bit more efficient in 2022, but he had the ACL for the first half of 2023, and I thought he came back and played certainly well enough that Jonathan Gannon felt fine rolling with him, and that's exactly what they did. I'll ask you this. I don't remember who you wrote down, but I want to talk to you about Trevor in particular, because if you're starting a team and you could have Trevor, Jordan Love, or Tua, all guys looking for new deals, who are you taking?
Trevor.
What? I think I'm taking Jordan and then Tua and then Trevor.
Okay. Well, I'm going with Trevor because that's who I wrote down.
Okay, yeah, go ahead with Trevor. And then when I find this list of complaints about Trevor, I'll read them to you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's plenty of complaints about him, but the way he finished the year before, the big come from behind win against the LA Chargers in the playoffs, digressed last year for whatever reason, whether it's play calling, whether it was injury because he tried to play hurt. A lot of guys probably would have sat out with the injury that he had. But I think Doug Peterson is taking back over play calling. You know, they added Gabe Davis. I think they, drafted Brian Thomas Jr., who will replace Calvin Ridley, I think, is a deep ball threat. So I think they've added some pieces on offense that will definitely help. The other key piece is Mitch Morris, who I think will be an upgrade at center as well, who they signed, I believe, from Buffalo. So I think that it's a big year for Jacksonville. It's a big year for Trevor. It's a big year for that staff down there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to get Trevor back on track. But it's not because he doesn't have the ability to be one of the top flight quarterbacks in this league. But I give him a lot of credit for playing through what he had to play through last year with the injury, because a lot of guys may have shut it down, and he tried to keep his streak going on number of consecutive starts and gutted his way through it. So I think with some of the playmakers they've added on offense, and they're getting Kirk back, who's I think a really good slot player as well, that Trevor will take the biggest leap out of the people that you talked about.
So Randy Miller, the former GM of the Broncos, who I'm sure you know, wrote about this in The Athletic. Just talking in general terms, he wasn't dumping on Trevor, but just noting in terms of the quarterback deals that are coming down the pipe and how Trevor's going to get paid pretty soon here. He threw 14 interceptions, tied for fourth most in 2023, had 21 turnovers. That was third most behind Sam Howell and Josh Allen. Sam Howell's obviously been sent to Seattle, and Josh Allen is a wild ride, obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the league. 10 of Lawrence's turnovers came on third down, the most in the NFL, and he converted just 38% of his third downs, which was the same as Des Ridder, Daniel Jones, and Josh Dobbs, and well behind Jalen Hurts, who's at 48%. So those things are concerning, but you're saying that maybe some of that's injury-related, maybe some of that's scheme-related. You're not worried long-term.
Nope. I think he'll have a bounce-back year.
Okay. I'm going to go with Jordan Love. You talked about he's only done it for half a season. He has one more year left on his sort of bridge, make-believe, what do you call it? The little deal that they gave him in Green Bay, the 2-year sort of bridge deal to figure out what they were doing. And now he's poised to be paid a lot of money. Are we still having the conversation with Tua and Trevor and Jordan that next man up means you're just making more than Joe Burrow, who currently makes 55?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be up that level. None of them have matched what Joe Burrow has done. Joe Burrow's gotten.
I agree, but usually the next quarterback up gets paid.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be in that.
Okay.
55. The 50, yes. 55, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't pay any of them that.
Well, what if they said, okay, then we'll see you later?
Well, then go play your rear end off, and I'll tag you next year.
That's not what they want to hear. All right, I'm going to go with Jordan Love. I think that team is poised. I'll go to a team poised, and they are certainly playing into the year with more confidence than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Confidence doesn't necessarily roll it from one year to the next. But they got Jordan Morgan. We'll see where he ends up, the first-round pick out of Arizona, whether it's left tackle or guard somewhere. We know about all their playmakers at wide receiver and tight end. They drafted Marshawn Lloyd to help in the running game now that Aaron Jones is gone. And I think the defense can get better as well. That division sort of quietly might end up being one of the best divisions in football. We'll find out. All right. That's it. Oh, gosh. I guess we got to talk about the guys we messed up.
Yeah, we didn't do very good last year.
No. Yeah, boy. All right. Let's take a quick look at this. We won't linger on this because this was an absolute dookie show. Last year's second-year players we thought had a chance to make the leap. There was only one, as you pointed out to me, Rick, there's only one guy, Kenny Pickett. And my goodness, Kenny Pickett blew the doors off the preseason. I thought he's going to go to the Hall of Fame at the end of last year, and he ended up getting hurt. Mason Rudolph started the last 5 games or whatever it was, and now both players are elsewhere. So I'll let you grade our picks. What do you give that grade?
The D.
All right, thank you. At least we passed. Ready for the next step? You said Trevor. I said Daniel Jones.
Well, Trevor was more realistic than Daniel Jones.
Right. Daniel had an ACL he was coming off the ACL last year, right?
No.
Oh, he just had the ACL. So he was just,
ACL.
I thought year 2 in Brian Dable's system.
Yeah.
He actually played pretty well in 2022. Now that I think about it, Brian Dable's first year, they didn't have any playmakers around him. I thought, okay, naturally he'll get better. He got worse.
Yeah, but he played because he made a lot of plays with his legs too.
Yeah. All right. So you win that one, Trevor, over Daniel by a hair. The guy that we counted out, Kyler Murray. Turns out Kyler Murray threw it in our face. He played pretty well. So that's another D. Don't stop believing. That was my guy, Mac Jones.
Oh my God.
Don't stop believing that Mac Jones will be traded to Jacksonville is the answer, is the rest of the answer to that question.
F.
Yeah. And new life, Deshaun Watson. That was your guy. He can't stay healthy. That so far has not worked out at all in Cleveland.
No, if he can stay healthy, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to do that first. Joe Flacco took that team to the playoffs after DTR and Josh Dobbs and everyone else and their brother played for the Browns last year. I think Josh Dobbs there last year? Maybe not.
He started there, remember, and right before the beginning of the season, they got traded to Arizona.
Right. So preseason, Arizona, then traded to Minnesota.
Had him in Cleveland, and Drew Petzing was a new OC out in Arizona.
And then they shipped him to Minnesota, where he had that fun run for about 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. All right. Let's not dwell on that.
Astronaut.
All right. We're going to take another quick break here. And when we come back to set up our 2021 NFL redraft, Rick and I will take a quick look at the 2021 draft classes we loved and some we loved a little less. And we'll talk about that right after this.
Have you heard of semaglutides? Ozempic, Mounjaro?
Hartman, this could be dangerous. Let's do it.
South Park, The End of Obesity. New exclusive event, now streaming. Exclusively on Paramount Plus.
All right, Rick. To set the stage for this 2021 redraft, which everyone has been waiting for with bated breath and understandably so, let's take a look quickly at the 21 draft class. Our buddy Pete Prisco graded the draft in real time back in 2021, and he regraded himself earlier this summer. Here's some of the A's he gave out right after the 2021 draft. He gave the Broncos an A, the Dolphins an A, gave the Vikings an A. He was the general manager of that Vikings team. And then on the redraft, he ended up giving the Lions an A+. Originally, he had given them a B+, and he gave the Eagles an A. Originally, he had given them a C+. So I'll let you go first. Which team do you want to focus on as having a draft you really like from 2021?
Well, to me, this was a no-brainer. It had to be the Detroit Lions because going into that draft, they had needs at receiver, at safety, at linebacker, at offensive line. And when they were picking at number 7, it was, I believe, at number 5, was Cincinnati going to go with Sewell or with Chase? And Cincinnati made that decision to go with Chase, and then Sewell, they ended up taking Penei Sewell, who was a huge need because Tyrell Crosby was the starting right tackle at the Detroit Lions going into the draft. So they got.
Why are you laughing at Tyrell?
No, I'm just saying they upgraded significantly because
gotcha.
Sewell ended up being an all-pro, in my opinion, right tackle. And then, so they filled that need. They needed some D-line help, and to get McNeil in the 3rd and Levi Onwuzurike.
Yeah, you got it.
Onwuzurike, has been hurt, but he should hopefully give them some inline pass rush. He hasn't panned out yet. Then Melifonwu from UConn, I believe, when he came out,
he's Cuse. His brother was UConn.
His brother was UConn. Yeah, at Cuse. That's Syracuse, and I haven't seen that orange velvet thing that you wear.
It's right over there. I don't want to bring it out to get you mad.
He's had his struggles, but now played pretty good at safety last year. And then maybe the steal of the whole draft was St. Brown in the 4th round, who just got a significant top of the market deal. And then getting Derek Barnes in the 4th round has ended up being a starting linebacker for him. So they had 5 starters and 2 Pro Bowlers. And I'm not so sure McNeil is on the realm of becoming a Pro Bowler at the time. So this to me was a no-brainer. They had so many needs in 2021, and every pick that Brad Holmes took was a home run, in my opinion.
Brad Holmes' first draft in Detroit. Is that right?
I think his first draft was it Jameson Williams or no? Jameson this was his first draft in 21.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start to the.
Yeah, and that's why they are where they are today. I believe is because this first initial draft and knocking it out of the park with those first 5-6 picks.
By the way, Amon-Ra St. Brown got that new deal, $30 million a year on average, which is Tyreek Hill money. So he's earned it without a doubt. All right, because producer Harry is a Dolphins fan, Rick, I got to go with the Dolphins. They actually had a really good draft as well. Jalen Waddle, another young man who just got paid. He got paid $28 million annually, $2 million behind, obviously St. Brown and obviously his teammate Tyreek Hill. But he is electric, undersized, but get the ball in his hands. And he's running away from you. Jalen Phillips had the injury concerns coming out. He had transferred from UCLA to the U and had a really good final season for the Hurricanes. I think he had an Achilles injury this year. Is that what happened?
Yep.
I believe so. So he's out for a different injury, but when he's on, he is on. Javon Holland, the safety out of Oregon, really good player coming out. He actually talked to our buddy Pete Prisco at Dolphins OTAs the day before we were recording this, and he's up for a deal next year. Eichenberg, Hunter Long, I liked him coming out. Hasn't done a whole bunch, but I think they got a ton of talent that has helped them consistently. Eichenberg's been able to play along the offensive line, and then the two defenders, and of course Jalen Waddle. So that was an A. When Pete graded them, he gave him an A. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh yeah, he also gave your draft class an A initially, Rick, and then gave it a C. Do you want to comment on that?
No.
No comment. All right.
No comment.
Let's talk about some of the stuff we missed. And I'll just set this up by saying that when Pete did his regrade, he initially gave the Texans a D. The Raiders and Seahawks as well also got Ds. In the regrade, he gave the Texans a C+. They improved a little bit. The Raiders improved a lot to a B. The Seahawks somehow got worse. They got an F. Some teams that since the regrade went from Bs or Cs to all D range. The Cardinals, the Bears, both the Giants and the Jets, and the Titans. Which team do you want to focus on here, Rick?
I'm going to go with the Jets.
All right.
And I don't think it. I thought Pete graded himself pretty hard on here, but it all is because of Zach Wilson. They moved on from Sam Darnold. They drafted Zach Wilson, and he ended up being a bust with the number 2 overall pick. Vera Tucker is a good starting guard in the league, can play multiple positions. His has been just an injury issue. Elijah Moore, chemistry never really got there in New York. They ended up trading him to Cleveland. He's a good player in Cleveland, better than he was with the Jets. Michael Carter was kind of the running back out of North Carolina, was behind Williams when they came out. They had a great 1-2 punch that year down North Carolina. Good kind of second or third type back. He's moved on, I believe, and no longer with the team. And then the rest of these guys down there, they took a lot of swings, 3 fifth-round picks, 3 sixth-round picks, and the only ones out of there have been Sherwood, who was a safety / linebacker, big athletic kid from Auburn, who's been a backup special teams guy, and Michael Carter II is their starting Nick, and the rest of the guys really haven't had much success in the NFL. So I would have given this instead of a D-, maybe a C- because you got a starting guard. And some of these guys are still around, but I can see why he was real critical of himself because of the Zach Wilson number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Sherwood coming out. I liked Hamza Natural Adine out of Florida State coming out, but he had the injuries. Pinnock played more for the Giants, I think, than he did for the Jets. And Brent Eccles has done some things, but he hasn't played a ton. I mean, he certainly day 3 value, if you want to call it that. All right, I'm going to go with a team. They sort of put themselves behind the 8 ball when they traded for Jamal Adams. They traded a first and a third-round pick for Jamal Adams. That's the Seattle Seahawks. They initially got a D, and then on the regrade, Pete gave them an F. They got Dwayne Eskridge, Trey Brown, and Stone Forsythe. Trey Brown has been able to contribute some. Dwayne Eskridge has yet to find his mark there, and Stone Forsythe, that also holds for him. So I'm just going to tell you what the trade value ended up being that the Seahawks gave up to get Jamal Adams. They traded Jamal Adams as a 2024 fourth round pick to the Seahawks. The Jets did for Bradley McDougall, what became Christian Darrisaw, because you traded with the Jets later there, Rick, what became Wyatt Davis, and what became Garrett Wilson. So Jamal Adams and Kobe Bryant, the cornerback out of Cincinnati, for those players. It didn't work out. And, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. In this case, it didn't. The other thing I wanted to note is that these are the players that were available when the Seahawks drafted Dwayne Haskins at 56 overall. They could have gotten better at linebacker. Nick Bolton, Pete Werner were there. They could have gotten Creed Humphrey. Osa Digizua was there. Paulson Adebo, Nico Collins, some guy named Amon-Ra St. Brown. Trey Brown, they drafted about 50 picks before Tolono Huafanga went off the board. And then when they drafted Stone Forsythe in the 6th round, Trey Smith was still there. He was still there because of injuries. He's turned out to be a really good player for the Chiefs. But what could have been, what could have been. All right. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, Rick. The redraft, the 2021 redraft. Take a quick break. Rick's going to get his mind right. And we'll commence redrafting right after this.
I think the cool part about being on Team USA is that everyone represents the American dream. Whether you're a white, straight, male athlete, or me, who's an Asian American, queer, female athlete, I want to be the beacon of hope that a lot of other people don't have.
All right, Rick, it's 2021 redraft time. Oh, Harry's got us in the NFL mock draft database simulator. For the sake of simplicity, let's assume there was a glitch in the 2021 NFL draft process, and Roger Goodell has decreed that all members of the 2021 class are now free agents. The rest of the 32 NFL rosters remain the same as of June 2024, as we are taping this. Does that make sense, Rick? Is that simple enough, you think?
Yeah, we'll try it. Yes.
All right.
I worked hard to try to understand this one.
I think it's pretty simple. Everyone in the 2021 class are free agents. Everything else stays the same. Any complaints, send them to Debo. All right. You have the first pick, Rick. The draft order remains as it did. The actual draft order from 2021 drafts. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Rick Spielman are on the clock.
Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to go with him again.
Yeah.
They had Gardner Minshew, and they had no choice. So I still think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a good player, really good player. And, he got messed up in the first year with Urban Meyer, showed signs and then thought he was really going to come along. And I'm going to stick with the theme on him making the biggest jump this year coming up from last year, and that I would take Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I thought about making a rule that you can't take the same player, but that's too far down that road. All right, that makes things easy for me. I think Harry's struggling. Don't worry about it, Harry. I got it. I'll do it on my end too while you work through that. But I got my draft board ready, Rick. Pumped. All right, he's off the board. Trevor Lawrence. This is easy for me. The roster's the same in New York, so we got Aaron Rodgers coming back. I don't care that they signed all those old timers. Penei Sewell, baby.
So you're looking at the roster in 24.
That's what I said in very explicitly in the directions. The 2021 free agents, the draft class are all free agents. Everything else stays the same. The rosters are as they were.
Okay, I misinterpreted this one, so hang on to your seat, boys.
Oh, okay. Well, what's funny? Harry said, do we want to just do it as you were doing it? And I thought that might confuse you. So
I was doing it just based because I went and studied all their rosters in 2021.
You did not, did you?
I spent 2 hours studying everybody's rosters in 21 instead of 20.
All right. Well, let's.
I'm good. I can adjust. Let's move on. Apparently, you were worse than Debo as far as clear-cut directions.
No,
Harry, just note to self as a producer, make sure you are clear and define what directions you want to go in all this.
All right. I will tweet out the email that I sent you 2 days ago with the rules. I should have taped the conversation we had yesterday where I explained the rules to you again. I feel like the French teacher. I think you should be in another class, Rick. All right. So look, last chance. Do you want to do 2021 rules or 2024?
No, let's keep moving.
All right. So
I will adjust.
to reiterate one last time. 2021 draft class, all free agents. The rosters are as they are as of June of 2024. All right. So I took Penei Sewell. You are up, sir. You are the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay. They definitely needed a quarterback back then. So I could see why they tried to trade up for Trey Lance. That was a swing and a miss. They needed corners, D-line, and O-line help, and some receiver help. They just drafted Ayuk. He wasn't panning out at the time. So they had Samuel. They didn't know what they had in Purdy, but I took Jamar Chase.
All right. I don't hate it. Don't hate it. But that makes things really good for me. We're playing basically in two different dimensions.
Let's see who's can stay on the ball. This is kind of
this works out perfectly because I have my little mini draft board here. The 2024 Falcons are going to take Harry Micah Parsons, baby. Micah Parsons. They need edge rush help. Maybe you have another quarterback going in this draft. I don't know why they would go in this draft in the first round, unless it's Mac Jones, who should have gone second overall. But I went with Micah Parsons.
Okay.
Next up, Cincinnati Bengals. Now Penei's gone. Jamar's gone.
Penei's not gone yet.
I just took him. I took him second to the Jets.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You rat. Oh, boy.
In a predicament there, huh?
Yeah, well, I want to look at what they need. They need O-line help. You took Penei Sewell. They needed edge help here going into this draft as well. They needed receiver, tight end, defensive tackle. But I can't pass up Patrick Surtain II.
Jesus, that's a good pick. God, that's a good pick. All right, next up. This will be interesting here. Producer Harry's Miami Dolphins are here. So now look, Jalen Waddle's not on the team because we just released him as per the decree from Roger Goodell. So I'll ask Harry. Harry, because Rick doesn't like when I ask him questions and we're in competition, Harry. Would you rather have Jalen Waddle here or Amon-Ra St. Brown to pair with Tyreek? That's one question I have.
I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. I think his speed unlocks part of the offense that Tyreek allows them to do, which is just be incredibly fast from all the positions. And I think that this year, especially with Odell Beckham Jr., he's going to be able to move to the slot more. And Jalen Waddle is deadly from the slot.
Rick's laughing. The other one I was considering, Rick, and we'll have to consider, I think we have to consider all the injury stuff since. Like Elijah Vera Tucker, I love the idea of plugging him in there, but the injuries concern me. All right, let's just take Jalen Waddle. Don't overthink it, Rick.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Next up, the Detroit Lions.
They need receiver help here. Boy, they need a lot of help. This was linebacker, safety, corner. They can go numerous directions. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go, and they took him in the fourth, but they take him.
Oh,
first.
man.
I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
All right. That's a great pick. This next pick is going to be pretty easy for me because I got to help your guy, Bryce Young, make that bounce to the next level. I'm taking Christian Darrisaw, and we'll move everything. We'll figure out something for Icky to do. Christian Darrisaw, baby. What do you think of that?
Oh, very interesting.
Because we know what he can do. Do you think? I know you drafted Darrisaw. Do you think Slater's had a better career than Darrisaw, or because Darrisaw's been a little healthier?
Yeah, both of them have had some injury durability, but I think they're both relatively pretty close. In performance,
because he was on my list as well, but I went with Darrisaw just so you couldn't take him. All right, next up, the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, they definitely needed a quarterback at the time. O-line, linebacker, D-line, running back. You know what I'm going to go? And I was looking at edge. Did Micah Parsons go yet?
Oh, yeah, I took him second or third. something up there. I took him high.
I'm going to go out of the box here.
Oh, gosh. Hold on to your seats, folks.
I'm going to go with, well, they had a left tackle. They didn't have a right tackle. I'm going to go with Slater here.
That's a
They'll
good pick.
take the best tackle.
Can't go wrong with that. And you have the benefit of knowing how good these players are, which, I mean, imagine that in real life. You never get fired.
No. I didn't think I'd get fired after Darrisaw and Jefferson, but things happen.
Things happen. Fair enough. All right, the Eagles are on the clock at 10. They originally took Devonta Smith. I had Darrisaw Slater as possibilities. Those guys are both gone. So do I want to find – I think Vera Tucker could play right tackle. Do you think he can?
The question was his length.
He did a good job at left tackle, I thought, for USC. So the question for me is, do you want Vera Tucker as the heir apparent to Lane Johnson, or do you just want to get Devonta Smith again? I'm going to mix it up, so I don't want to keep drafting the same guys to the teams that took him. Let's take Elijah Vera Tucker here as the right tackle for Lane, should Lane retire.
Okay. Bears needed a quarterback, definitely needed offensive line help, of all receiver, DB, edge. I would have taken Darrisaw here, but he's already gone. I'm going to go with, scroll down, Landon Dickerson.
Oh, that's a good pick. Oh, that's a good pick. Man, that's a good pick. You've done this before, Rick.
Nah, I'm just guessing like everybody else.
Just guessing like everybody else. Golly. All right. You won't know this for 3 years, but that's going to make Caleb Williams extremely happy. I'm from the future, Rick. All right, you took Landon Dickerson. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys, I believe. So they don't have Micah. Micah's gone. He's at the Atlanta Falcons now. So do I want to go? You know, it would be hysterical if I took Najee Harris here because I need a running back. I'm not taking Najee. All right. Do I want to go cornerback? Because you talked about Trevon Diggs and his future may be up in the air if they got to pay one of their brothers. They have Deron Bland, who's been awesome. I think I'm going to go with Greg Rousseau.
Greg Rousseau. Oh, interesting.
Because he's been quietly pretty good for
yeah.
And he's gotten a lot better as his career has progressed for the Bills. All right. The Chargers.
Chargers, they always need offensive line help, corner help. I don't like the corners left on the board. Go to all, Harry. You know what I'm going to do?
Nope.
I am going to go with, then they have Waller at the time, so they didn't need a tight end. They need scroll down a little bit, Harry. Give me Devontae Smith.
Oh, he's still there.
I'll go with the receiver.
All right. Okay. The Jets are back on the clock. They took Penei Sewell. Devontae's gone. He was on our board. But you know who I'm taking here? I don't feel that bad about it, Rick, because I'm going to get a young man by the name of Nico Collins.
Oh, wow. It's a little bit of a reach, but
I don't know. He's been balling out. He's been balling out. I'm sure Jets fans will be happy that I took Nico Collins at 14. All right. The Patriots. Did you still have Tom Brady in your world, or is he gone already? I can't remember.
Tom Brady is gone.
Okay.
What I have sitting in there is Cam Newton and Jared Stidham. Okay.
Oh, right. This is McCorkle Jones draft. That's right. Okay.
Who am I going? I'm going to go with. It'd be a different story if he ended up in New England. Justin Fields.
Yeah, I was thinking about possible landing spots where maybe his future turns out differently. I don't hate that. He's a younger version of Cam Newton, not quite as big, obviously, nor quite as successful at this point in his career.
And Josh McDaniels was still the quarterback or the offensive coordinator then, so I figured out he would be able to do something with Justin.
Yeah. All right, Justin Fields goes to the Patriots. Let me make my note here so I know. Zach Wilson still on the board. Didn't want to take him, huh? Interesting. Okay. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals. So since I'm in 2024, I'm looking at cornerback, safety, and maybe defensive line. You know this guy got some first round buzz during his final draft year. I think he opted out. I liked his tape a lot, and I think he ended up going in round 2, maybe even round 3. Paulson Adebo out of Stanford.
Oh,
he's been pretty good for the Saints.
Down for the Saints.
Yeah, and I think he has 7 turnovers in his career. Or maybe last year, excuse me. I have to double check, but he's been surprisingly efficient. I haven't watched a lot of him in the NFL, but
right there, you passed him, Harry. Down, down, down. Stop. A little bit more. Right
he's
there.
Number 68. There he is. Next up, the Raiders.
Boy, I remember this one. We were praying Darasol didn't go there, and they ended up taking Alex Leatherwood. So that didn't work out.
No.
They need safety help, linebacker help, corner help. Boy, they need all kinds of help. So, you know who I'm going to go with?
What?
Who's been a pretty good corner down in Jacksonville? Tyson Campbell.
Oh, okay. Oh, man. So back to the Dolphins. They got Jalen Waddle here. You took Tyson Campbell. Man, you look back at some of these picks and you just can't believe, like the Caleb Farley pick in the first round to the Titans. He had the back injury, but he was a good football player. All right. Miami's back on the clock. Jalen Waddle at pick 6. Now at pick 18. Nico's gone. I was considering Nico Collins here. If we didn't get Jalen up first, we got Jalen there. I'm looking at offensive line here. Vera Tucker's gone. I'm going to get wild here. We know he's healthy. Trey Smith.
Oh. The guard from Tennessee. Eric.
Yeah. And he was definitely a top 75 guy had he been healthy. I think there was concerns about
heart. I believe.
Yeah. All right. Washington.
Commanders are up. They needed left tackle in a big way because Trent Williams had just left. They need tight end help, linebacker help, and I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts.
Oh, I was going to take him with the next pick. That's a good pick. Because, again, you feel like fit matters, and I don't know why it hasn't worked in Atlanta, but because I'm in 2024, Rick, I was Darren Waller has since retired, so I was going to get some help with Kyle Pitts, but you're in 2021. Just know in 3 years, Darren Waller is going to retire.
Okay.
All right, Kyle Pitts, I'll X his name out. Man, I mean, again, I have nausea here scribbled down as the joke. So now I'm looking at secondary help. I'm going to go with nickel, and I'm going to take Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh, wow.
You know what I like about these redraft? You don't get quite as angry at me as the picks I make because you know the players are generally not terrible.
Yeah.
No, you don't agree with that?
No.
All right. Colts are up. They took Kwity Paye originally.
Yeah. They needed left tackle help because Costanzo Anthony retired that year. They need edge. They need tight end. They need corner. They need D-line. So I'm going to go. Let me see the offensive tackles left. We got anyone left? Nope. Harry, go to the corners. See if I got any corners left. J.C. Horn, Farley, yuck. I'm going with Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome's been a solid corner with Cleveland.
You think he's been better than J.C.?
J.C. can't stay healthy.
Yeah. When he's healthy, he's good, though.
He's to me, he's almost a Pro Bowl talent if he can stay healthy.
All right, next up, the Tennessee Titans. As I mentioned a moment ago, they took Caleb Farley, the corner out of Virginia Tech, who had back issues. I think he tore his ACL earlier in his college career. I have them needing linebacker help back up here in 2024, Rick. And I'm going to blow your mind with this pick. Ernest Jones.
Ooh, geez, that's a reach.
No way. I was looking at I was looking at some of his numbers and watching some of his stuff yesterday. He leads the last year he led the league in pressures. He doesn't rush a lot, but when he does, he gets home.
Okay, that's good.
I don't even know why I say what I say. I knew what your response is going to be. Did you find what number was he, Harry? I'm keeping score over here. Oh, there he is, 222. Good Lord. And Rick thinks that's a reach. Okay. The Minnesota Vikings. Darisaw is long gone.
Yep. This is an easy one because I was in this scenario if Darisaw was gone.
All right. What'd you come up with?
Quiddy Pay. That's who our next.
Oh, I love it.
So it was either whatever Indianapolis took. If they took Darisaw or worried about Darisaw going there, we would have taken Pay.
And you mentioned you were worried about the Vegas at 17 taking Darisaw there. After that, I'm guessing you did the math that the only team you had to worry about were the Colts. Is that right?
Yeah, because
that's why you didn't move up.
Yeah, and then we just took a gamble.
Gotcha. And I would assume you were relatively horizontally happy with both Quiddy and Darisaw.
Yeah, we'd been happy with either, but
all right.
we were happy. We were real happy with Darisaw.
Yeah, he worked out pretty good, I would say. The Steelers are up. So Kyle Pitts was on my list, gone. Samuel Jr. was on my list, gone. I'm going to take a roll of the dice here. Hopefully we can keep him healthy. Put him opposite Joey Porter Jr., J.C. Horn.
Okay, that's a good pick if he's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to stay healthy. Oh, shucks. Wait. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just struggling on my end here to do the math. All right, you're up, Rick, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You took Trevor Lawrence at 1.
Yeah, they need quarterback, tight end, D-line, safety, O-line. Let me see what the go-to edge rushers there. D-line. Yeah, let me see.
And they actually took Travis Etienne originally at 25.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jalen Phillips here.
Man, that's a good pick. All right, next up, Cleveland. Oh, I had Landon Dickerson as a possibility. Long gone. They originally took Greg Newsome. You just took Greg Newsome. I could go with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who they took in this draft, who I like. But just to mix it up a little bit, I'll go with Nick Bolton.
That's a good pick. Good football player.
Yeah.
Okay, Ravens need edge. They need offensive line help, D-line, safety, receiver. So in this one, go to edge one more time, Harry. Yeah, there's no one there. So you know what I'm going to do?
No.
Orlando Brown was gone. Judon was gone. Ngakwe was gone. They originally took Bateman.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with someone that they took, but they took him in the second round. I think is a first round talent.
Who?
I am going to go with, although let me hold on here a second. I am going to change it up just because you're changing it up. I'm going to go with Javon Holland. They needed a safety during that time.
Yeah, he feels like he fits in that defense for sure. All right, well done, Javon Holland. Next up, the New Orleans Saints. And you missed on an easy one here, Rick, because they need secondary help as well. I'm going to go with Talanoa Hufanga.
Ooh.
Got him.
Good.
All right.
Yay.
Packers at 29, they took Eric Stokes. He's also battled injuries. He ran in the 4.2s as his pro day. Cornerback out of Georgia.
Yeah, I don't think there's any corners left on the market. They also, at the time, needed D-line, O-line, linebacker, and receiver help. You know they'll never take a receiver in the first round. They'll never take. Go ahead and scroll down, Harry. Okay, right there. I'm going to go with Barmore, who, when he is healthy, player, and that would help him up front in the D-line.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's quietly a very good pick. All right, Buffalo Bills are up. I'm here in 2024, Rick. I'm thinking about a wide receiver, but they're all gone. Like Josh Palmer is on my radar, but I can't take him this high. I think he's a good player, but not a top 32 player. They need help in the secondary because they got rid of all their old timers at safety position. So I'm going to go with Andre Sisco.
Oh, okay. It's a little bit of a reach, but he's been a solid player.
He's been solid.
Yeah. All right. Ravens back on the clock at 31. Still haven't addressed the O-line issue. They got this player in the second round.
Oh, you're coming back to him. He's still there, huh?
I'm coming back to him. Creed Humphrey. He's sitting there at 31. He's been a really good player. I'm taking him there.
Oh gosh, he's been on my list of names to take too. You get him? You got him. Dang it. That doesn't make sense in 2024, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt in 2021. That's a pick that I would make in 2024. All right, finally, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They took Joe Tryon-Shoyinka originally, and in 2024, I'm looking for the best available corner. Maybe there's not a lot to choose from here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's nothing here. The best available player. I mean, this is tough. Maybe I will go with.
Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, I just got to trade out of this pick here. You know what I'm going to do?
I can't wait.
I know it's going to be. It's down. I'm going to take a linebacker, I think, just because we need to go a little younger there. So it's either going to be JOK or Jamin Davis. I think I'm going to go with.
Oh, you're stuck. You're stuck.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go with JOK. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
All right.
I just got I was in between a rock and a hard place here.
22,000 linebackers on that roster at the time, but that's fine.
But I'm in 2024, Rick.
Okay.
Those guys are 3 years older, and some of them have moved on. That's like you taking 2 centers for the Ravens. It depends on what year you're in.
Yeah, it actually worked out pretty good.
It did work out pretty good. It just goes to show you it's a crapshoot. All right, you know what? That was fun. As Harry,
we'll make sure next year when we do this for the 2022 draft that I will make sure that I know, are we in 2025 or are we in 2022?
I will be tweeting out the email that I sent you. I wish again I had recorded the audio conversation
well, your instructions make no sense whatsoever.
I'll tweet them out and ask if they make sense. We can
same year.
That's
my
opinion. Before we get going,
email Ryan at that new email address and tell him how wrong he is about trying to rerun this draft. If you're going to do 2021 redraft, look at what 2021 what they would have done.
WTFPdraft@gmail.com. And by the way, producer Harry agrees with you because that's a question he brought up to me. I thought it would confuse things for you, so that's on me. Lesson learned. Last year we only did 10 picks. This year we did 32 picks, but in different years. Next year we'll be in the same year when we did it. When we do the draft, I think it's better every year. To your point, I think it still went pretty well, and it was fun. So I don't think no bad picks because we knew all the players. Yeah, Bucks were between a rock and a hard place, but that's okay. All right, I'm sure producer Harry will clip this up. So if you just want to watch the redraft, you can do that. In the meantime, that's it for episode 162. Thanks as always to my guy Rick. Thanks to Harry for producing. Thanks to all of you who watch, listen, and comment. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.